Hello and good morning, class. Today we're going to be talking about long division. This is another strategy that we can actually use to be able to do division. Now, in simple problems like 6 divided by 2, there's two ways of thinking about this. First of all, how many multiples of 2 does it take for me to get to 6? That's pretty easy. I can count by my 2's and see how many times it takes me to get to 6. I can even use unit blocks to kind of help me out here. I can see that it takes me 1, 2, 3 times for me to get to 6. The reason for that is I can count by 2's and go 2, 4, 6. It's pretty easy at that point. Or I can take these 6 and try another strategy. If I split 6 of something into 2 groups, how many will be in each group? Now this is just like kind of when you're passing out cards to somebody, you just do it one at a time by going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And it's pretty easy that way as well. We can see that we have 3 in one group. In other words, 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. Well, that's all good enough for smaller numbers, but what happens when we try these strategies with larger numbers? Yeah, I don't really want to sit here and start counting all of those. So let's push these all the way off to the side. Yeah, forget about that for now. And let's think about a new strategy that we can use in order to do larger numbers. Today we're going to be talking about long division. Long division is the process of counting how many times a divisor can evenly go into each place value of a dividend. Now, if you guys don't remember, the dividend is a number we're splitting or dividing into equal groups. The divisor is how many equal groups we're going to split that up into. Now, rather than trying to take this on all at once, I'm actually going to go through the place values and see how many times 6 can evenly go into each place value. Now, there's many steps to this. In fact, there's 3 good steps that you should always remember when doing long division. The first is, above the dividend, write how many times the divisor can go into each part of the dividend. Ooh, boy, that sounds a little confusing. Let me break that down a little bit easier into here. Now, whenever I see this division sign, it always reminds me of a ramp. I want to see how many times 6 can go into each of these place values, kind of jumping off the ramp and going into the number. Now, the first number I have here, going in order from hundreds to tens to ones. I always go from left to right. I see how many times can 6 go into 3. Now, 6 can technically go into 3, however, it's not going to go evenly. So therefore, I'm actually going to hold off on doing 3, and rather than doing 6 into 3, I can go 6 into 34. Now I have to ask myself, 6 can't go evenly completely into 34, but how many times can I count by 6 where I can get to 34? All right, let me count by 6's until I get to 34. All right, as close as I can get. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Oh, if I try one more, I get to 36. That's no good. So that means 30 is the highest I can go without going over 34. That means I did that 5 times. So 6 can go into 34 5 times. You'll notice, just as I write down here, write how many times the divisor, 6, can go into each part of the dividend. I'm taking a look at 34. It can go in 5 times. So that's step 1. What do I do next? Well, that 5, what in the world does that actually mean? Well, my second step to this is to subtract from that part or that place value of the dividend, right here, by that multiple of your divisor. In other words, I did 6 5 times. I want to take this away from my dividend. If I do 6 times 5, what is that equal to if I count 6 5 times? I know that that's equal to 30. So I'm going to put 30. And you'll notice I line it up right underneath the number I was just doing. I know I was doing 34. So that was 5 times 6 can go into 34 evenly, which is 30. And I'm going to subtract that from my dividend because I've already used that by putting the 5 up here. So 34 minus 30 is equal to 4. So done step 2. Subtract from that part of the dividend by the multiple of your divisor. Check. Finally, step 3. What do I do there? All right. Bring down the next place value to the answer of the subtraction problem and go back to step 1. I can see that the next place value is this 8 right here, and this 4 is all by itself. 6 cannot go evenly into 4. So I have to bring down my next part of the dividend, my next place value, and put the 8 down here. Now I go back to step 1. Step 1, if you guys don't remember, is how many times can 6 go evenly into this next number? I think to myself, how many times can 6 go into 48? Think about it, guys. Count by 6s. How many times does go into 48 evenly? Turn to your partner and let them know. If you said the number 8, you were absolutely correct. Again, my answer, or the amount of multiples that I can count by, go right up here. And that will be 8. So to make sure, I do 6 times 8 is equal to 48. If I take that away from my dividend, I should end up with 0. Now, if you have any other number down here, this is what would be called the remainder. And we've already talked about that in class as well. After you have done a division problem, what is left over? Now, I know that's a little bit hard, but let's actually try some examples together now, and I'm going to kind of take you through step by step on how to do this. So, practice time. Get out your whiteboards, ladies and gentlemen, and let's practice. In number 1, I have 654 as my dividend, and my divisor is 2. So, in other words, I'm trying to see how many times can 654 be broken up by 2 even places. Now, my first step is to see how many times 2 can go into the very first place value. Again, I'm kind of ramping off and seeing how many times 6 can be divided by 2. And if you are actually doing that correctly, 2 can go into 6 how many times? If you guys don't remember, think back to my very first example. Think about it. Turn to your partner and let them know. If you did that correctly, you know 2 goes 3 times into 6. And then since I have that up here, that's 2, 3 times, I'm going to take this away from my dividend and make it 0. I'm going to bring down my next place value after I do that. That is always the next step. This will tell you what your next number you are going to be dividing into. 2 goes into 5 how many times evenly? Remember, it has to go evenly. I can't be like, Mr. O'Malley, it kind of goes in more than that. No, don't try that. How many times can 2 go into 5 evenly? Turn to your partner, let them know. If you said 2, you are absolutely correct, which means we would take 5 and we subtract by the multiple of 2 times 2, which is equal to 4. Now when I do 5 minus 4, I will get 1. Again, my next step, bring down the next place value to the answer of that subtraction problem. Because 2 can't go into 1 evenly, but 2 can sure go into 14 evenly. Think, how many times can 2 go into 14 evenly? Turn to your partner and let them know. 2 can go into 14 7 times evenly if you did that correct. So the answer is 14 minus 14, which is equal to 0. So 2 can go into 654 327 times. For those who don't remember, this is called our quotient. I always thought that word was kind of cool, quotient. I like that word. I don't know why. It's funny that all the other words in dividing start with a D except for a quotient. So I don't know. I find that interesting. Sorry if you guys don't. Now let's take a look at our next example. This one I'm going to kind of have you guys work with your partner in order to complete. A reminder, as you're going through, you have to think, how many times can 7 go into each of these parts? If 7 cannot go into that part, you're going to have to put a 0 in that place value and keep on going. Try it with your partner at this time. If you don't get it, don't worry. I'll be here afterwards to help you out. Go ahead and give it a try. Now let me take you through exactly what I did. The first thing I would do is how many times can 7 go into 7? It can go 1 time. When subtracting 7 minus 7, you get 0. And I'm going to bring down the 5. However, I know that 7 can't go into 5 evenly. What do I do there? Well, since 7 can't go into 5 evenly, I'm going to put a 0 here because it can't go into that. And next time, I'm going to bring down that next place value, which would be 6. How many times can 7 go into 56 evenly? Well, if you did that, you would know that is 8 times. 7 goes 8 times into 56. When we do 56 minus 56, we get 0. So there is no remainder. I always like it when there's no remainder. It makes things so much easier. Which tells me 7 can go into 756 108 times. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. O'Malley is now going to give you guys some practice to see if you can do this on your own. Enjoy!